Welcome back and thanks for being with us here on Morning Live. And of course, busy in South Africa for the 15th BRICS summit. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa and President Xi Jinping of China will meet later this morning on day one of the Chinese leader's state visit to South Africa. So let's cross once more to our reporter Samkele Maseko, who's at the Union Buildings, just making sure that we don't miss anything with regard to the coverage of this bilateral as well. Samkele, good to speak to you once more. So we spoke earlier on about what we can expect to top the agenda. But obviously, you know, there's a lot being said about China's approach to South Africa as well, and Africa at large, and also, you know, how we could best position ourselves as South Africa and the continent as a whole to have a better relationship than we had perhaps with previous dominant forces who have come to this continent to do business, extract minerals, etc. So let's talk about some of those issues, Sam.
Indeed, Sakina, when you look at just the relations between China and South Africa, you'd remember when China first came into South Africa, you'd remember the letter that was issued out by the then minister, that would be Jeff Radebe, speaking about how many South Africans were skeptical about Chinese products flooding the South African market, being labeled Hong Kong. You look at how China was all over the African continent, building infrastructure, roads, bridges. As a matter of fact, there is a relationship between South Africa and China to build a bridge that will connect the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, currently between the Port Edward and the Port Shepstone site of KwaZulu-Natal, which will link those two particular provinces. And that is a huge investment between China and the South African government, working in collaboration with the KwaZulu-Natal government and also the Eastern Cape government. You'd also remember that at some point, the United States of America was South Africa's biggest trading partner when it comes to the international markets. That was overtaken in the past 15 years, with China now becoming South Africa's biggest international trading partner, and also China having South Africa as its biggest trading partner within the African continent. But that relationship is very contentious, Sakina, as you'd remember that South Africa is perceived as the gateway into Africa by many international countries that look at doing trade with the African continent, using the Durban port, using the Richards Bay coal terminal, and also using the East London Bay as well, in order to transport those vehicles that are being constructed within the Port Elizabeth belt and also the East London belt, using that particular terminal there. And it also brings about the relationship in the textile industry, of how many people have perceived China of having killed the textile industry within South Africa, which was largely based in the Western Cape and also in the Eastern Cape, in those areas of Dimbaza. And that creates an environment where the textile industry within South Africa has been struggling over the years with the various imports coming in from China.
Now, Sam, of course, that is, of course, a huge issue. But if we look at how we have approached our trade pacts with China, not just as South Africa, but the continent as a whole, do you think that there will be any room for discussion in terms of how we can improve those? Or is this going to be one that the leaders will sort of just brush over the cracks?
It's going to be a hot topical issue, particularly within this state visit of President Xi Jinping and President Cyril Ramaphosa, when they have their bilateral meeting of the trade relations between the two countries, which is largely skewed in China's favor and against South Africa. When you look at the various exports that South Africa has sent to the Republic of China, vis-a-vis to the various imports that South Africa has taken from the People's Republic of China, you look at how, particularly within the energy sector, you'd remember the FOCAC of 2018, where the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, was tasked with the responsibility of looking at the various state-owned enterprises of China within the energy and electricity space that compete amongst one another in order to try and resolve South Africa's energy crisis when it comes to the power utility Eskom. That has not yet come to fruition. You look at the various products of China that are currently currently in South Africa within the renewable energy space. You go to the SunSync inverters, you go to the DEA inverter. In fact, at this point in time, the DEA inverter, which is backup energy, renewable energy that is currently used within various homes, DEA inverters constitute about 30% of the market currently of renewable energy within South Africa. You look at the various solar inverters that are being imported into South Africa, exported by China, that is flooding the South African economy. And that is indirectly telling you, Sakina, that the renewable energy sector within South Africa is going to be largely dominated and is largely dominated currently by products coming from China. Just as a matter of fact, the Chinese are going to be building a massive solar energy plant that is going to be generating solar panels in the city of Johannesburg. And that is an investment by the Chinese government coming into South Africa. And you're looking at municipalities and provinces such as Gauteng, which has got solar technicians being trained in order to build solar panels, which is going to be one of the collaborative issues that is going to be discussed here with the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Samson Mantashe, the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramaphosa, who has been meeting a lot of stakeholders in the past 2 days from the Republic of China. As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, Minister Kgosientsho, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramaphosa, was in China going on a study visit to look at the various energy solutions that the Chinese can help the South African government, and in particular help the failing power utility Eskom in trying to generate electricity in order to eradicate load shedding, which is currently affecting the performance of the South African economy. The economy, if load shedding were to be eradicated in South Africa, would perform and grow at about 3% per annum, which is what South Africa is currently looking at, with the economy now growing at about projected to grow at about 1%, with the reduction of load shedding, with the nuclear power station Kuiberg and those particular 2 units coming back into the power grid in order to provide and to reduce load shedding by one particular state. And that tells you that this particular state visit is going to be centralized around the economy, centralized around electricity generation, around the just transition, and also renewable energy, but also not forgetting the geopolitics of the war between Russia and Ukraine, and also the establishment of a new currency and the de-dollarization in order to compete directly with the dollar. China has been very open in what they are saying, that they want this particular bloc of BRICS to be a direct competition to G7.